Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Columbus Common Council Special Committee of the Whole meeting. It is Tuesday, April 16th. It is 6:30 p.m. And just before we get started with the agenda for anybody who is watching streaming tonight, if the foul weather sirens do happen to go off, we will be leaving air to go downstairs and we will return. After that, if I could have a roll call, please.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Present.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda, so I'm looking for a motion for same.
Move to approve. Alder Motive will second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Motive. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next is citizen comments, and we have one signed up tonight, Chief Weiner. Oh, okay, perfect. Is there anybody who, no problem. Is there anybody who wanted to speak at this meeting who did not get a chance to sign up? Okay, hearing none. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the award of contract to Rent Fun LLC for kayak rental program. There is a sheet included with your packet, but just a brief synopsis. The Tourism Commission is looking to purchase a 4-unit kayak rental from Rent.Fun for installation at Rotary Park. There is a one-time activation purchase fee of $19,000. This will be paid by the Tourism Fund using $9,500 from the Materials and Services line item, and in partnership with the Columbus Fall River Rotary Club, who will be donating $9,500 for that as well. Are there any questions or discussion?
I have several questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I think this is a great thing. However, I think that some of this is a little misleading. I was looking at the rental fees, which is number 3 on Schedule B. It's on. And it talks about that we receive 50% of the gross rental fees received, which is absolutely wonderful. But then it talks about all the things that they can take out of the fee, and some of that is maintenance, replacement, equipment shipping costs, refurbishment costs, but yet earlier in the contract it talks about that they are in charge of maintenance. And that doesn't make sense to me.
If I could chime in, I think what the items in B are talking about is if there's damage to the equipment, we're not responsible for its repair and replacement, the company is. And I'd be hard pressed to believe that we'd get better terms than that is their responsibility, and so replacement and the cost of repair replacement, they're taking that onus, but then they're saying that they can use the proceeds to do that.
Okay, but that... Sorry, I'm still conflicted in where it says they cover the maintenance and then we have non-standard care. So who is actually going out there, checking on things, making sure that it's all safe? And what does that cost to the city if we're expected to have somebody out there checking on this?
My understanding in reading the agreement is that the company takes that responsibility for repair and maintenance.
Okay. And what's covered under the non-standard, where they take out I understand having to move to a new location, I do. But damage to a locker or equipment therein. So if we have a vandal in town, then suddenly the city's responsible for that replacement. Replacement shipping costs and annual refurbishment costs, what are those?
Paul, do you have any insight on this? I know you reviewed it.
I do not. I mean, that is a term that's not defined anywhere except from what you're looking at right there. And it was my understanding that the company was gonna take care of that, and basically, the city's job is to sit back and give up the space and collect some money. That was my understanding, when I talked with, the representative and David a couple weeks ago, or I guess it was last week. But there is no specific term for that in this agreement.
I guess I would like that looked into so that we know exactly what we're getting into before I can recommend moving this forward to council. The other question I had real quick, and Paul, this one's for you. I noticed that the governance of this document was state of Wisconsin, which is awesome because it's an easier system than Michigan. But the company is based out of Michigan. Isn't it supposed to be in the state of Michigan for the governance of this contract then?
No, the governance of the contract is just if there's ever gonna be litigation, it's gonna be here. They can be a Michigan company all they want, just like we're a Wisconsin municipality, so that's not a problem.
Alder Rostat?
The 50% and the 30%, is that just gonna go to the general fund? Or are we gonna designate that back to the tourism?
Do you know, Matt? My understanding was that tourism was gonna take part of it, or Joe, do you know?
I don't think that has been defined. I think the focus was in getting the program in place. Obviously, council would have direction as to where those funds are placed.
Alder Lawson, did you ever light in? Yes. Yes, Crystal.
I do believe that David came and got an account number from me, and it was the same fund where the EV charging station revenues.
Okay.
That was tourism, or was that CBA?
We do discuss the EV charging station and tourism, so I think that's us, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find that account number, but it was not general fund.
Okay, all right, perfect, thank you. Alder Lawson?
Yeah, so it does say that they will provide associated paddles and life jackets. Just want to make sure that they will provide sizes for children as well. That doesn't specify it anywhere, so if someone's going to follow up with them, please do that. And then do we have any idea what the initial rental fee would be?
I believe the rental fees were, you could do in a couple of different ways. You could do it either in like hour increments or like a half day. And I do not remember exactly what it was. I do remember thinking it was pretty affordable, especially if you're
That's fine.
doing the hourly.
Do you remember it being affordable?
Yeah. Alder Rostat?
Just general housekeeping, the first page of the master service agreement, it goes 1, 2 to 4. Just want to clean that up, make it more professional.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other, Alder Lawson?
Yeah, there's, speaking of housekeeping, so on Schedule C, Item 4, the very last thing it says is that something is defined in Section B, Schedule B, Section C, but I think it's supposed to be Schedule B, Section 3. There are no
Okay.
letter references in Schedule B.
All right, thank you. And, did you, okay. Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I guess I have a question on, the 5-year exclusive license and possible, termination if things aren't working out. The way I'm reading it, it looks like the only way the city would get out of it, if we decide to, would be if we lost the rights to the land itself. I just don't see any really good language if they're not meeting expectations.
Okay. Okay. Alder Motive?
I have one other question from Schedule C, number 1, under equipment. It says landowner will use reasonable efforts to report any maintenance or other issues, which, you know, it makes sense if we notice something. But how often are they checking, and, you know, how often do they expect us to check, even though it says they take care of maintenance? But it doesn't say that they have a staff person who's here. So how often is that going to happen? And if the city is expected to keep an eye on that more, what's that cost going to be to the city?
Paul, do you have your light on?
I do not.
Okay.
Let that go.
Mayor Hammer?
From no microphones to 2 microphones.
I think David turned that other one on and turned the one you had off.
So while kayaking is going to be going on, we're going to have people out mowing lawn on a regular basis. So, I mean, it's, you know, the park gets checked out, you know, so it doesn't really take much for them to take a look just to see. So I don't see that as being any kind of an issue, to look things over and then report back.
I just also want to share, there are a lot of great comments brought up and things that we can go back and look at. I think something like this also takes a little bit of a, I don't want to say a leap of faith, but you've got to take a step forward and be willing to work through some of the issues that may occur. I think this is a needed, and what, not needed, but it's a great recreational service to add into the community. We dealt with a lot of consternation and other stops about shared bike programs, and I know a number of communities have went through a lot of challenges with the micromobility with scooters and some of those things. I don't see that being this kind of issue where we're going to be littering the community with scooters and some of those sort of things. So we'll work through these, bring these back May 7th, but I'm excited to see this as an option for our residents.
Alder Lawson?
I think Alder Reed had a question about termination, and I did see in the MSA Section 5 that there is a material breach clause. So if they don't perform according to this, then they're in breach, and we have so many days to cancel.
Any other questions or concerns? Matt, do you have what you need to bring this back then? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is to discuss increased wages for police patrol officers and sergeant.
At our last committee of the whole meeting, we talked about increases for a number of our full-time staff. Chief Weiner approached me about doing a $1 an hour increase for our patrol officers and sergeant. We contacted the police union and were able to draft a side letter that doesn't open the agreement, and Attorney Johnson was involved with this as well in bringing this to you as a way to compensate our police staff in a similar fashion as the rest of our full-time staff. So happy to answer any questions. I know Chief's here to address as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Alder Rostat?
I'm just assuming, being the union, your 25-year percent raise is already negotiated, your 4% that's listed?
Yeah, the contract's negotiated through the end of '25, and there were step increases January 1st each year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alder Lawson?
So if that's already part of the bargaining agreement, right, your 4% at January 1st then is on top of the dollar raise, right? Like you're not getting shorted by having a dollar raise now.
That's correct. This is what the side letter does. It just basically changes the wage salary scale in the contract and nothing else. That's why it's called the side letter versus reopening the entire contract.
Okay.
And the concern that this is addressing is compression within the wage scale of other positions moving closer to some of those police positions and still elevating them in their ranges.
Any other questions or concerns? Is everybody comfortable moving this one along? Perfect. Thank you. And that is it for this, except for to adjourn, so I will take a motion for same.
Move to adjourn.
Aldermotive will second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Alder Finkler, a second from Alder Modif. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, we will move right into the regular council meeting for this evening, and welcome to all those that are here and also to those that are. Sorry, forgot my microphone. Welcome to tonight's meeting, and welcome to those here and also to those that are watching on cable or streaming. So with that, I would entertain a roll call, please.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Present.
Rostad.
Here.
And if you would join me with the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed.
Okay, with that, we will move on to approving tonight's agenda.
Alder Rolke will move to approve tonight's agenda.
Aldermotive will second.
A motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Modif to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion on that? I would just note that item number 7 on here will be moved to the May 7th meeting.
Do we need to alter that motion for technical reasons then?
Yeah.
I will amend my original motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item number 7 under new business.
Aldermotive will second.
Okay, motion by Alder, excuse me, Rolke and a second by Alder Modif to approve tonight's agenda with the removal of item number 7 from new business. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then correspondence and communications, and now you would like to speak, Dennis? Okay.
Just two very quick things I wanted to pass on to the council and the community. April 27th, which is a Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we'll be participating in the Spring Drug Take-Back Day at Prairie Ridge Health. Drive-up service to the main entrance. You won't have to get out of your car. I will be staffing it, so come out and say hi, drop off any expired, unused, unneeded meds, and we'll turn those over to the state for disposal. That's always been a pretty popular event, and we collect a lot of things and save them from going down the drain or in the garbage or wherever they may need be. And I occasionally get asked what happens to them. We turn them over to the State Department of Justice, and they have a contract with an incineration company, and they're all burned. And then secondly, I got an email today from the CP Rail Police. On May 6th, a historic 1930s steam train is going to be passing through town. I don't have the time yet because it's not known. It's part of a from Canada to New Mexico cross-country tour this historic train is doing. They will not be stopping in Columbus. They are stopping in other communities and letting people see the train and talking about it, and there's events and stuff, but Columbus is one they're just going to be passing through. It is on their website, a little history of the train and pictures of it. It looks pretty cool, and we'll likely draw some train buffs to the community to follow them. So, and when I know the time's available, I'll have David put something out on social media for those who want to see it, but again, it is not going to stop. It's just going to be passing through Columbus. The nearest stop it's making is actually, I believe, somewhere in Illinois, Twin Cities and in Illinois. So we're just going to get to see it pass through. But just by looking at the webpage, it looks very cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. That is the council and committee of the whole minutes from April 1st of 2024. Approve operator licenses for 2023 to 2025 licensing period. Approve disposal of the 2019 Ford Police Interceptor. Authorize Columbus Preschool to complete maintenance project on city-owned portion of parking lot. Approve the street closing request for Redbud Days and the mayoral appointments to the City of Columbus boards, committees, and commissions.
Alder Motif will make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Reed will second.
Okay, I have a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Reed to approve tonight's consent agenda. Any discussion?
Yeah, I
Alder
do have a
Lawson.
question. So, I know recently we kind of moved on from having the chicken license thing not brought to the council. Is there a reason we couldn't do the same with the operator licenses?
They're approved through the police department here before I ever issue even a provisional, so they have to go through them first.
It's something we can put on the May 7th cow for discussion.
Sure. And Alder Rossett.
That's the thing I was gonna bring up too. 'Cause if we're not gonna deny them if the police department approves them. If they can work with the clerk and the administrator, it's one less thing that we gotta deal with.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Sorry, one other thing.
No, that's fine.
Just want to make sure there's no conflict of interest. So I do have a brother-in-law that's listed as one of the appointees on one of the commissions that I will also be on,
Which
CDA.
CDA? I don't know, is that an issue? I don't see it as an issue, so.
And it's not a conflict of the bylaws.
It's not a
either.
legal conflict.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. Under new business, number 1, elect council president. So the office of the council president can be held by any council member. The voting will be done by secret ballot. It is possible for someone not nominated to be elected into that position. So, excuse me, nominations for council president do not need a second. So at this point, I would look for nominations, for council president. Well, I would make a nomination for Amy Rolke as council president. Are there any other nominations? Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Okay.
I'd love to do it.
Okay, then you are nominating yourself.
I am.
So, okay. So are there any further nominations? Any further nominations? Any further nominations? I thereby close nominations. And with that, we will have the ballots.
She's prepared. Thank you, Susan.
Nope. Well,
If it's a tie.
it depends. Give me one.
want to get involved? Okay. Relke. Finkler. Relke. Motive. Relke. Relke. Relke has 4 votes, Finkler has 1 vote, and Motive has 1 vote.
Congratulations.
Okay,
you.
and now moving on to number 2, and that would be to consider and take action on not filling the deputy clerk position. This was presented to us last week. If you have anything further to add to the information that's there.
Happy to answer any questions, Council has.
Alder Motive.
Alder Motive will make a motion to not fill the vacant deputy clerk position.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motive and a second by Alder Finkler to approve not filling the vacant deputy clerk position. Is there any further discussion? Alder Rossett.
By doing this, then say 6 months down the road, we determine, or you guys determine you need one, do we gotta go through the whole process of recreating the job description? Or will this be held open?
I think it's just confirming that we're not going to go out and advertise and fill the position. The appropriate step in your situation would be, we'd be in the budget discussion, and it'd have to be something that's discussed during budget time if we were going to add that position back or look at some other, staff configuration at that time.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next on the agenda is to consider and take action on adoption of Ordinance 787-24, Order of Business and Citizens' Right to Address Council.
I'd take a moment to explain. There are 2 versions of the ordinance in your packet. One is the ordinance that's been discussed to this point that limits public comment at the council meeting to items on the agenda and opens public comment to items on the agenda or not on the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting. The second version adds the, you'll see, I believe it's in number 8, the term ordinance in our order of the agenda. What that'll allow to do is have a standard placement of ordinances on the agenda with language about the need to make motion to suspend and waive the rules to eliminate the need for a second reading, so that we'll have a standard way of addressing the ordinance issues that have been referenced in the past.
Okay, then if that being the case, I would entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 787-24.
Alder Rolke will move to adopt ordinance 787-24 to include item number 8 in section 1 for ordinances.
Alder Lawson will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Lawson to approve adopting Ordinance 787-24. Any discussion? Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. Oh, goodness, this still isn't quite what we had decided on. It's getting there, but not quite. So for 2-A at the last sentence of that has been corrected to the public comment presented to the committee of the whole can be related to an agenda item or a topic not present on the agenda. That part's good. But then, still under section 2C, we still have council or committee of the whole kind of mushed together And then the comments that are off-topic, abusive, or otherwise out of line. So we just needed to separate the council from the committee of the whole, just a little sentence to separate them. I don't know how it keeps happening. I mean, it might be okay as is with the sentence from section A, but it's still just a little off.
Could the term off-topic be eliminated from that paragraph?
I think that would work, because in section A, it has to be on topic for council.
Correct.
So striking that one word from C would make it work.
So then do I need to modify my motion to include striking that word? Okay. So I will amend my original motion to include striking the words "are off topic" from section C, or subsection C in section 2. Yeah.
You hit the second on it, right? Or Michael did.
Yeah, I did, but now I have a question, because if we remove that, then where does it indicate what action can be taken if an item is off topic in the council meeting?
Off-topic typically is if it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So under the normal council meeting,
All public comment presented shall relate to items on the.
It
council
requires it,
agenda.
yes, but it doesn't say what action the council can take.
Oh,
It removes the possibility of us doing any of this in C if there's an off-topic item in the council meeting.
Isn't that what B says? Like, Paul, could you please walk everybody through what's here?
This was an attempt a long time ago to regulate the public comment, and it's actually turned out to be a horror story, in my humble opinion. So what is being attempted here is a regulation that public comment at the common council meeting is to relate to the items on the common council agenda for that evening. Public comment at the committee of the whole meeting is intended to relate to the comments or to the items on the agenda at that meeting, plus if there is anybody else who wants to address the the committee of the whole for any purpose whatsoever, be it the announcement of the steam train coming through, the announcement of I'm running for office coming through, the announcement of anything of public interest. So an off-topic conversation at the council level is pretty easy to define because it's something that isn't on the agenda, and you can look at the items on the agenda and decide if that's off-topic. The committee of the whole, there really is no off-topic. But it doesn't really matter because the term off-topic, I don't understand why it needs to be removed, because it is just there, because the process is if somebody is aggrieved by what is being said, they're going to raise an objection, and then the council is going to discuss whether the person speaking should be able to continue in the first place. And if you remember way back when this was first introduced, the discussion started as to whether or not any abridgment of the person's ability to speak would be a First Amendment concern in the very first place, and we've now got way past that to where we are tonight. I think that the council has the right to regulate the speech that is being made before it, but there's always going to be a at some point, there's a fine line. And this is set up to be a mechanism to decide where that fine line is if there's a controversy in the first place. Now, fortunately, in the city of Columbus, for the period of time I've been here, this has not been an issue. And it came up one time a couple of months ago, and it wasn't even related to a speaker. It was related to a letter being written or being read into the record, which was being addressed in a different part of this ordinance. So I don't think I answered your question at all, because there really is no way to walk through this. It's just a question of what you're trying to accomplish, and I believe that the weeds have gotten in the way.
Can I say something?
She was first.
She was first, okay.
I think people envisioned that there would be, at least this people envisioned, that there would be one paragraph that simply addressed council and one paragraph that simply addressed council of the whole. However, in reading through on A and looking at the very last sentence, public comment presented to the committee of the whole can be related to an agenda item or a topic not on the present agenda. So it does cover what we talked about. It's just that it's all together.
My opinion is that we just leave it as written by Attorney Johnson, and leave the R off topic under subsection C in there. Because it does carry or cover everything that was discussed about, so. Okay, Alder Fink.
I think we're getting way too far in the weeds on this, and I mean, it's kind of grown into a monster. Off topic is subjective anyway, and since, like, we even had conversations on council, is like, this hasn't been a problem before, but now we're all of a sudden trying to make all these limitations. So I think that we need to not send this back for the 6th time and just get this resolved and move on to other business that we actually have a problem to resolve.
Any other discussion? So we had a modified, amended motion.
But it's failed to get a second at this point.
Correct, yeah.
So we could
Does
make
that
a
read-
motion to approve as is.
Well, we would revert back to the initial motion, seeing that the amended had no second.
If the amended motion has no second, then it died.
Okay.
So now you're back to whatever your original motion was.
Okay. So that was the motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Lawson to approve adopting ordinance 787-24. Any further discussion?
Which version?
My motion was to include the ordinances.
Thank you.
Yes. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
But wait.
Wait.
Did you go through waive your reading and suspend your rules and vote on the motion?
I did not.
Because yes. This is worthy of a conversation for the future because
Well,
this
which is what's
what,
gonna.
this is what this is going to try to eliminate, but we still have to remember to do it.
Okay.
So please back up.
All right, so what I would be looking for is a motion to suspend the rules and waive the reading of, do you have to do them individually, or,
Well, a former clerk always thought so.
well, how about we do it that way for tonight?
Yes,
So
let's
I
do it
would be
that way
looking for a
tonight.
motion to suspend the rules.
Alder Motif will make a motion to suspend the rules for ordinance 787-24.
Second.
A motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Finkler to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then I would look for a motion to waive the reading of ordinance 787-24.
Alder Lawson will make a motion to waive the reading of ordinance
787.
787-24.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Lawson and a second by Alder Rolke to waive the reading of ordinance 787-24. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Now, we will look for a motion, well, we're already there for the motion from Alder Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Lawson to adopt ordinance 787-24. Any further discussion on that? With the addition of item number 8, which is ordinances, under the order of business. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is to consider and take action on ordinance 791-24, an ordinance to repeal and to create Article 7 of Chapter 98 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances concerning all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles.
If I can just introduce this, Attorney Johnson has drafted this ordinance mirroring the ordinance from the Village of Rio with the comments from the last Committee of the Whole discussion. The one kind of thing that there wasn't resolution on at the Committee of the Whole were hours of operation. Susan has reached out. The current draft includes 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. as the hours of operation. The city clerk did reach out to the town of Columbus, which has no hours restrictions, and the town of Elba, which has a restriction of 5 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. as their acceptable hours of operation.
Okay, so we'll go through the first two parts first before we get to the discussion part. So I would look for a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion, or I move to suspend the rules.
Alder Motif will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Motif to suspend the rules for ordinance 791-24. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next would be to waive the reading of ordinance 791-24.
Alder
Go ahead.
Alder Motif will make a motion to suspend the reading. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or waive the reading.
Waive the reading of 79124.
Alder Rolke will second.
Motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Rolke to waive the reading of 791-24. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, would look for a motion to adopt ordinance 791-24.
Alder Motif will make a motion to adopt ordinance 791-24.
Reed will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Reed to adopt ordinance 791-24. Now, discussion, Alder Finkler.
I don't agree with all the restrictions that the RIO's ordinance has in. I would just like to state, as I've stated the whole time, that I agree with requiring a license, that there's no open intoxicants, and that you have to have insurance. But everything else, I am not in agreement with.
Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. I love this ordinance overall. I love how preventive it is and letting expectations known on the front end. My only question is on the age restriction exemptions segments, like section B, where it mentions only if a person is under 12 years of age and operates it with their, parents or guardians. I don't know that we need this since they're going to have to be over 16. And also, same thing for just below under the use of headgear. B, minimum age of 12 if they're going hunting or fishing. I'm on page 10. Under use of headgear, which is C, subsection 2, sub B.
I think that's for a rider. Passenger on
Yeah, I'm a little confused on that part.
Well, the majority of this is, it's taken from RIO, but it's also the state statute and DNR rules. So I mean, they just incorporated everything into theirs. One thing I didn't hear any discussion on was time, but Alder Rolke.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say is, in general, I agree with Alder Finkler that we were doing fine with what we had and we didn't need a lot of tweaks to this. But in specific, I am really against item number 11, the hours of operation. First of all, I don't think if our neighboring communities have no restrictions or have a 5 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. restriction, we should be cutting 4 hours short of what our immediate neighbors are doing. And second of all, that's shorter even than our noise ordinances, and I can't think of any other reason other than the noise that we would have such a short window for use for people. So I would be a lot more comfortable with this if we were addressing this to match the town of Elba's hours or the town of Columbus and not having hours of operation.
Alder Lawson.
Yeah, I think hours of operation, I mean, as it's written, has a huge loophole because it says unless the operator is a current resident and is going to or from their place of residence. So if you're going home or leaving your home, then the hours don't matter. There's some other items in here I think that should be addressed. Under speed limits, number 5, D, there is an item that talks about, shall not exceed 10 miles per hour if you're within 100 feet of a fishing shanty. Well, there's a disclaimer on 5B that says if you're on a roadway, then that doesn't apply. I think there probably should be a similar one for item D, that it not apply if you're on a roadway. There is also on page 6, G, yield to traffic and pedestrians. It says that ATVs and UTVs shall yield to all vehicular traffic. So all vehicular traffic, does that mean that they don't have the same right-of-way at a four-way stop? I'm just not clear what that means. And then there's also the item about city parks, not being able to operate in city parks. That's on page 3. I thought this had been discussed at one point, and I'm not sure why there would be a restriction in operating in a city park. Obviously, you still need to be on the roadway. But if you're going to Fireman's Park for an event, why would you not be able to drive into Fireman's Park and park?
Page 11 talks about parking as well. So it's kind of, I believe it's contradicting between page 3 and page 11. Am I reading it wrong? I guess I'd ask Attorney Johnson. So page 3, E, 1, 2, and 3. And then you go to page 11.
Yeah, page 11 is strictly where parking is allowed. And page 3 is designating part of the official route for the travel of ATVs and UTVs. And part of the official route, no person is going to operate in the following public areas unless it is part of the route as established by the council. City-owned property need not be posted regarding the following prohibitions. So parks, cemeteries, and land owned by the city, and sidewalks. So those are not part of the routes right now.
So that's just saying that they don't have to be posted,
Yes.
so they can operate?
No.
No. So then, previous meetings, that was already discussed that we can go to the park on a UTV, or we can park anywhere a vehicle can park.
I think, if I can, I think what this is saying is you can't take a joyride through the park because it's not part of an identified route.
Right.
But that you can drive to the park, park anywhere a vehicle can legally park. You just can't drive, through the baseball fields or, play fields within a park.
And the other thing I would have to agree with Alder Roki on the hours. We got rid of the sunset clause, and now we're trying to enact hours of operation again. Either we have to mirror Alba to give them a chance to come into town or leave town, or we abolish it and don't have any hours of operation, would be my suggestion. And I thought in previous meetings, it was also discussed that if you had a learner's permit, you could drive. And I don't see that in here. It says you need a driver's license. The last meeting, actually April 1st, it was discussed. Learner's permit would be acceptable.
If they apparently.
Correct. Just like driving the car, they need to be occupied or accompanied by a legal adult. And then the only other thing I'm totally against would be that, I have to find it. page 5, under cruising. I mean, what are we trying to prevent? People want to like, tweak their machine, and this says that they can't make an adjustment at home theoretically, go around 3 blocks, come back, make another adjustment, go back out, and they take the same lap. They fall under the cruising prohibited. My opinion is just let them be and go to the 4 or 3 options that were discussed and get rid of the ordinance.
Alder Motive.
Personally, I'd like to see the cruising left in. We have had some issues with people cruising, and it's not just to adjust their repairs. So I feel pretty strongly about that being left in. And as far as the hours go, I'm fine either way. I don't have a problem matching it to Alba or removing them unless there is a note of it being a problem, but I don't think it has been.
Which
I've
was
been
it
on
you?
for a
Okay,
while, yeah.
Sorry. Alder Finkler.
It's all good. So we're in the council meeting, and there's still a lot of discussion on this. I know there's a motion on the table. Do we have to vote on that before we can vote or have a motion to send this back to COW for discussion? Where discussion should happen?
That would be one option. So what you have, I'm going to answer your question. You have a motion on the table right now to adopt the ordinance as drafted.
Yep.
And if there is not a majority of people who want to go down that road, then I think there are 2 choices. And choice number 1 is to vote that down and then do a motion to send this back to the committee of the whole for further review and contemplation. Or your other option is to go through this basically section by section and offer up amendments to what is written in front of you to address each of the items that are troubling one or more of you, such as hours of operation, such as cruising, such as everything that you've talked about. So that's the 2 ways to move forward. That's the 2 ways to move forward.
Can we take a roll call then on that? Because I think we have to, more discussion. I mean, we don't seem all in agreement. So I propose we do a vote and then decide where we're going to go after that.
Alder Reed.
Oh. No, that sounds fine.
Okay.
So what we have and then.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table for adopting ordinance 791-24. And we will go through with the roll call vote on that and determine with the determination of what steps going forward. So, yeah.
Relke,
Nay.
Lawson,
Nay.
Finkler,
Nay.
Reed,
Aye.
Rostad,
Nay.
Motive.
Nay, I agree, there's too much dissent.
We have 5 nays, 1 yes.
And we will bring this back to the May.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to send ordinance 791-24 back to next COW for further discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Lawson to move this back to May 7th cow. Discussion on this, Alder Rustin?
You think it's beneficial to do that? Or should we, because I think we're all in agreement that we want to require a driver's license. We want, no open intox. So how long, I know this is opening a can of worms probably, but how long would it take to go through and amend it so we can get this back or get it in law or active for the 4 things we want for sure?
I'm going to encourage you to put this at the cow. I think one of the challenges is that we have 2 new council members that are jumping in midstream at this, and I think it would be best to go back to the cow and work through some of these challenges and then move it forward to council once we've got agreement at the committee of the whole level.
Alder Lawson? Nope, that's, and, okay. we're good. Any other further discussion? Oh, Attorney Johnson.
Somewhere along the line of what Alder Rosted was saying is that you've taken something that was actually really simple because it was the state statute, period. And you've now added a whole bunch of stuff, some of which I think everybody is in agreement with, some of which you're not even close on. And then you've taken an ordinance that came from another municipality and you threw that in on top of it. Some of that stuff is in here, and the perfect example of that is what Alder Lawson said about the loophole about driving to and from your house. That's never been contemplated here, but it's in Ryle, that's why it's now in here. So you've taken 3 basically different ideas and combined them all together, and you now have goulash. So it probably makes sense for each of you to read through, and the reason that this is all in front of you like this is because, okay, like, don't like, don't like, and then when you meet at the cow, see exactly what you're disagreeing over, because I've been listening for the last 2 meetings now. I have no idea what you even are agreeing to or disagreeing to, because you're all on different levels of this. So it's probably a good idea. There's probably about 20 different things in there that are new from what we had 6 weeks ago. And just make a list, and then you're actually going to probably have to tackle them one at a time. Your hours of operation is still your biggest divide. And then there are others of you who are just go back to where we were, and others that want to add a whole bunch of things. So you're really all over the map.
All right, well, we have the motion and the second to move this to the May 7th cow. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the consider and take action on increased city staff wages, including police positions.
I'll make a motion to approve the increased city staff wages, including police positions.
Alder Rolke will second.
I think, I was going to say, he had his own.
Okay, sorry. So we have a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by, who did it? Alder Roki, sorry. To approve the increase for city staff wages, including the police positions. Any further discussion on this? Alder Lawson.
Yeah, just a few questions. So the wage scale adjustments, in the packet, there's a mention of moving the positions to the midpoint. We're talking about the current employees would be moved to the new midpoint. Is that correct?
There's a proposed pay scale in your packet with some highlighted sections. We adjusted those pay scales for discussions that have occurred over the last few months with council at both council meetings as well as a workshop that was held in March in concern about, number one, getting our employees to the midpoint. And there were some positions that we wanted to elevate the entire range and move those staff to the midpoint of their new revised range as well.
Okay, and then my other question is, are all the employees that we're talking about increasing their wages currently in good standing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. So I am very much for raising our listed employees to the mid-level. I have just a very quick question. I don't know if there would be an answer tonight. There's a brief mentioning of, moving a little money from the library fund. And library, the board has a question on whether there might be any city funds available to help if they raise some of their wages also. So it's not for tonight, it's just a question. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, could we have a roll call?
Finkler. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, and next is a consider and take action on the contract with NeoGov for the software services. So, Matt?
Yeah, just a brief overview on this. We're looking at 3 products. The first is Insight and Government Jobs. The second is Learn. The third is Perform. Insight and Government Jobs would move our application process online and create standardization in our hiring practices. Learn would provide us with a learning management system that not only tracks training and certification, but has over 1,400 preloaded training courses as part of their curriculum. And then Perform would move us to a continuous feedback evaluation tool for our employees.
I'll move to approve the contract with NeoGov for software services.
Alder Rosted will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Rosted to approve the NeoGov contract. Any further discussions? Hearing none, roll call.
Lawson.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, and then next would be to approve the claims in the amount of $403,832.01.
Alder Motif will make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $403,832.01.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Finkler to pay the claims. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call.
Finkler. Aye. Relke.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, next. Matt? Yeah, briefly, just a couple of announcements from the Recreation Department. There is an Arbor Day Festival being held April 27th from 10 to 3 at the Pavilion in Fireman's Park. Art craft, vendor sale, bare-rooted tree giveaway, tree planting demonstrations, lots of other fun, family-focused activities. Also, on Friday, May 3rd, is Ties and Tiaras, a dance for quality time with the family. Deadline to enroll is April 26th, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. also at the Pavilion. And an announcement that tennis courts are being pressure washed over the next 2 weeks, weather pending, if this isn't a pressure washing going on outside. So, okay. Thank you.
I would like to offer my thanks to Adam Steiner for his service and dedication to our community while he served as alderman. And then just reiterate what Chief Weiner had said about April 27th and the Spring National Drug Take Back at Prairie Ridge Health at the main entrance. There are 2 vacant positions on the Cable Commission. So if you wish to serve on that commission, please fill out an online application. And then just a reiteration for the things that City Administrator Amundson had said, go to the city website and the Facebook page for more info on those. And with that, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Rosted to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned from the regular council meeting.
Does anybody need a break before we go? 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Are we going to stay in the sitting position? Here's why I'm asking. I learned when I sat down there, I can
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole. It is Tuesday, April 16th. It is 7:45 p.m., and I would like a roll call at this time, please.
Winkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Present.
Rostad.
Here.
This notice was also posted and noticed according to law. This meeting, excuse me, was also posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. At this time, I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Alder Motive will second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Motive. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. At this time, I will open the floor to citizen comments. I didn't see anybody who had signed up, but is there anybody who didn't get a chance to sign up who would like to speak? Okay, hearing none. Included in your packet tonight, you will find department reports from library and police. And the first item up for discussion is discussion of the 2024 borrowing for capital projects. Crystal, did you want to talk about that?
Okay. Well, we have a lot of information condensed down for you, so I hope we can get to any questions you have and get your answers for you. So as we did budget last year, we knew that forecasting out for streets, there was a street plan, and it would be anticipated that the major projects would have, would require us to do bonds or loans, get debt, to be able to consistently have our, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep the levy at, a consistent levy, and that's part of the process. So in doing so, we started looking at what we had in the budget, but also looking at the city's needs on a few areas. So if you look at the two charts, so let's just go to the charts first. I have a general fund chart, and then I gave you the one for the sewer utility. Since we were working with the sewer utility this last year, we were able to come up with the specific numbers. The utility is not looking at getting any debt funds this year for water or electric, but they will be for the following year. That's out a year. So we're just looking at the sewer utility this coming year. And we did find that the two projects that we bonded for in 2022, the cost of now finishing those projects or getting those going now has exceeded the original estimates. So we're contemplating trying to keep this, the cash flow consistent with the sewer utility, and looking at doing, trying to get some debt for the sewer projects. And we did take this and discuss it with the sewer utility, and they were in agreement that they would like to see us try to get debt, acquire the debt for $961,000. So first of all, do you have any questions on what we're doing with sewer? Let's just knock that one out first. Sarah, did you have anything? No. Okay. Okay. You were a bit studiously looking at it, and I know you have good questions. So, okay. Now let's go to, let's talk about, one side, let me mention it now for that. The level of the debt that we need for sewer just for 2024, we don't know what 25 will hold, but if we're just looking at the 2024 bonding, we did put the Ludington Street project in, but that would not impact sewer. And sewer would, what was I trying to say? With the level of, it's not a huge amount to want to do a revenue bond. So we will be talking to Ellers once we're through tonight. We will be talking to Ellers to get their forecasting and get rolling on bonds. But with sewer, if we aren't going to have an individual bond, if it's not cost-effective, they suggested that we would do it as part of our GEO bond, but we don't have to because we have access to the SLRF state loans. So our state loans that we've done before, they can be utility revenue loans. And it would not impact general obligation. It would not be a general obligation debt. That's the part I'm trying to stay with, is keeping utility, and GEO debt, because that affects our levy. Okay. All right, so moving on to the general obligation debt that we are looking at for 2024. To take a step back, we did look at the streets projects. We did talk to Jason, our consultant, and we identified that in 2025, if we bring Ludington early into the bonding for 2024, we would not need to bond in 2025 for GEO debt. We would go straight to 2026 and start preparing for 2026, which is going to be a bigger bond. So it's cost effective, and there would be very little left because they want to kind of push up and be ready to start paying for Ludington early in 2025. And the one project, Tower Road, would not even begin until late 2025, 2026. So it just made sense. I'm going off of our capital street plan that we've all had copies of in the past. So that's where we were looking at, if we do put Ludington in now, then we wouldn't need to do a bond next year, and we would look at keeping going with our street plan and our bonding in 2026 forward. Okay. So now looking at your list, what I did on both these with the utility and the general obligation debt is I took the snapshot of our budget, so you could see what was in the budget that we approved during the budget season, and what we're looking at now based on the evaluations, the costs, what we think is the project is really going to cost now. So that's what you have here, is the list that shows that we're anticipating trying to put 2025 Ludington into the total. The vac truck and the fireman's park, that's our stormwater project. That was part of the budget. Okay, any question on what we had in the budget versus what we're looking at bonding for?
The fire truck, the 58,000, I'm assuming that's 98, not the portion of the new split with the rural group on 92.
Fire truck?
We're on page 12, right?
What do you mean, page 12?
In your capital projects list on your breakdown, if you look behind you, you can see it on the screen, Crystal. There's a reference of fire truck, $58,000 towards tax levy. That's the new pickup truck that was just recently acquired.
Oh, that was the regular fire truck. That wasn't the big one. Yeah.
Correct. And I think the question is about how are we paying for the replacement, our share of the replacement of the larger fire truck?
The big truck? Oh, yes, I do have a note on that. Sorry. Okay, so we've already got half of it stored in savings, and the other half, essentially, it's a little bit, that's not the exact number, but if it's about half. The remainder, we would not need to fund until 2026. So we're proposing, that's the big bond that we're going to be looking at, trying to work towards for 2026. So we don't need to be pulling it 2 years ahead.
I apologize if you covered this, but
No, that's okay.
you said that you don't want to go to bond again in 2025. Do we not anticipate any needs from stormwater projects then that we can't cover with?
We actually can project a stormwater project in 2025 and use what we consider savings, but not to put it in the budget, but it would be projected that it would come from the 2026 bond as long as we've made declarations of that sort. So if you look at what we've done with sewer, that's why I put these in here so we can answer questions. Declaration of official intent. This would suggest that for the 2026 bond, we would start listing out projects, and if we know it's going to hit and we're not going to have the bond money for 6-9 months after the costs start to be paid for, then we would write the declaration. Then when that bond comes in, as soon as we can get it in early in 2026, instead of like we're doing this year, which we're a little, I'm behind the ball, but we've all been busy. So we would try to have it as early as possible, and then the funds are there to cover what expenses the general fund has supported to pay in 2025.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Is everybody comfortable moving this forward? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just does anyone have a question on how we're using the declaration of intent or what it is?
It's probably important to point out that I think in good wisdom of past council, they approved a resolution that identified the city administrator and city treasurer have the ability to basically approve expenditures. Is that the best way of stating that, Crystal, related to the bond? So that if we incur expenses before issuance of the bond, that we can still pay for those items with the bond.
Yeah, and one of the most important things about that is that if you're not ready to make your resolution on the bond, but then a project's going on already and nobody thought about it, and then you pay a big bill, but you didn't do your resolution for the bond yet, that big bill is not in your bond. It is not covered by the bond. You paid it. Yeah, so engineering, preliminary stuff, that can roll into the bond if it's already been paid for, but not your contractual, not your contractor in building and purchases. Yeah, so like to answer the one question about if we have a project for 2025, we'd say, okay, yep, that's going to be part of our 2026 bond to get that money to pay for that. And we would work that out through the budget.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the 2024 action plan. Matt?
We've been working at this for some time. The idea was as I came into the city, 2023 was really talked about as a year of transition. We wanted to tangibly put some ideas together for a focus of work in 2024. We went through a number of exercises with the staff in identifying what those cross-departmental needs were. We went through a prioritization exercise. And so what's before you is an action plan that identifies 3 work teams within the city. One is addressing personnel items with a goal of development of a centralized employee handbook for all city departments. The second is a capital improvement plan and long-range financial plan or projection that would make the conversation we just had on borrowing a lot more future-focused and looking at maintaining that consistent level of debt and how we structure out projects and evolve our current 10-year street plan into a comprehensive capital improvement plan for the city that looks at our facilities, parks, vehicle replacement, and factors that all in to a comprehensive capital improvement plan. And then the third is a 2025-2027 strategic plan, that this would be a big ask or a big lift in really working with the public, working with the council on developing a strategic plan that identifies our priorities beyond 2024 as we finish up, the personnel items in the CIP. I'm not asking that this necessarily go to the next council meeting. This is being kind of presented as an update or an information item that these groups have all started meeting and have started working on their tasks and dividing and conquering the lists of tasks that need to be accomplished. That these were all 3 things that will come back in future. We're envisioning the handbook, coming to the COW in October. The CIP, obviously, as part of our budget discussions, and the strategic plan, a lofty goal of having that in place by the end of this year. Happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Alder Rostock?
Have you gotten, you said they started to meet, have you got any feedback? How long are they meeting on an average or a basis?
We had initial kickoff meetings in the past week. They were less than an hour, and it was really to kind of talk about next steps, assign responsibilities. We're also using a collaborative dashboard, I'll call it, called Trello, where staff don't always have to meet to be working on it. They can share their ideas and collaborate through that site without the idea of having to meet at a set time.
Alder Finkler?
I just want to say thank you for putting this together and all the structure that you're providing. I absolutely love it, and I think that it's great to get everybody involved in it. So I just want to say thank you.
Alder Lawson?
Yeah, I won't speak for anyone else, but if there's some assistance that I can help with outside of council meetings, I'm all for it.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions or concerns? Thank you for the advisory on that, Matt. Since there's nothing to move forward, I won't ask that question. Next item on the agenda is discussion of city department reorganization.
As I've talked with the council in the past, we've been trying to, at least once a month, have a larger focus to our department head meetings. The most recent one, staff were divided into 3 teams and given the exercise of reorganizing city departments. The idea being that we were going to eliminate one-person departments and create work teams that align similar focus services. There's a document in the packet that kind of highlights the examples, and I'm sharing that now. There's a lot of similarities between the 1, 2, and 3 alternatives. The CA alternative is one that I've put together. What I'm working on now, and we'll be having further discussion with the department heads, is are these collaborative teams? Are they newly structured departments? And in these collaborative teams, there may be more than one department head that reports to the city administrator, and in some, there may be one department head that reports to the city administrator. The idea is to continue to work that out as we review all the department head job descriptions with the intent of bringing all of the department head job descriptions to the council meeting on May 7th.
Any questions, comments? Alder Finkler?
The only question I have is media coordinator. I see under your, and it's kind of media coordinators kind of all over the place in here.
Yeah.
But under your recommendation, which is probably the one that you can easily speak to, it shows under the utility director and the community and economic development and DPW superintendent. My only question on that is that, and I don't know if my thoughts are even a good reason to place it, but the most communications that we have coming out from, from the city are from the library, recreation, and we probably could boost up on the community center. So I guess I was just curious on the thought process on why to put the media coordinator under that section.
So one of my concerns since coming to the city is the workload that the Community and Economic Development Director is dealing with. And I feel that our current media coordinator has some skills in that area. And that he could learn and mentor under Mike Kornman, learn community and economic development, and be a potential succession candidate down the road when Mike decides to retire or move on from the city. So that is my inline thinking on that, and that he'd still have the ability to do his other job functions, and as time allowed, assist and work with Mike.
Okay. I just want to throw out there that I just worry about an organizational structure aligned based off of an individual versus a position and specifically to the position and the duties that the position does. So I just ask that that's taken into consideration as we're thinking through this, because just because somebody is in one area doesn't mean that they can't still help out, another. We just want to make sure it's long-term org structure.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion of enhanced.
I have a quick question. Are we supposed to do anything on this? There's like multiple options. Are we supposed to discuss one that we prefer?
It was really as an opportunity to give some feedback or input on,
Okay.
are we headed in the right direction? And the idea that this would be coming to council at the next meeting in the term of, we need to take a look at all of our department head job descriptions, because some of them we've past recognized have not been looked at in a while.
So we're not looking to do any reorg until after the job descriptions have been through?
I will be
And approved.
looking at those job descriptions as the opportunity for the reorg in
Okay.
terms of supervision exercised.
Okay.
Alder Rostock?
Do we have to approve the job descriptions once you rewrite them as a council?
That is my understanding. It's something that I'd like some input on as how we proceed. In communities I've been in, that's been a city administrator, human resources function for the most part. But I think at this point where we're at and the length of time they've been looked at, I want to get to a point where the council's seen them. And that, tweaks moving forward, the idea is a good performance review process should annually look at the job description and reflect if there's any changes that have occurred over the past year. So that there is a standardized way of reviewing and making sure that they're current with the current role and responsibility of the staff.
And who's going to write the job description?
They're all written. There's some modernization and legal compliance that Stephanie, our human resources administrator, and myself will be working on as we go through them. The first function right now is the department heads have been given their job description and asked to update them to reflect their current role and responsibility and make sure that it is reflective of their jobs.
And are we going to reach out to staff to see what their department head can do? Or like to see in their department head?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase?
Are we going to reach out, are you guys going to reach out to staff, the department head staff, for input on what their department head should do or what they'd like them to do, be part of?
I think we're getting away from a job description and getting into performance evaluation. And a performance evaluation, I'd love to incorporate that into the performance evaluation. I think right now we need to make sure that our job descriptions are consistent, that they're in a similar format and similar structure, and that they comply with legalities and that there aren't inaccuracies or issues within the job description. It's a cleanup effort on the job descriptions in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Alder Lawson?
So through this exercise and utilizing the new HR software, do you anticipate coming back to council to make some recommendations for us to relinquish some of those requirements of you having to come to council if there's a tweak that needs to be made to a job description?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question. It's something that I really haven't contemplated on how we move forward. It's one item on a lengthy list, and it could be something that we look at even from a personnel. I don't know if the personnel handbook would get to that level or even how or where we address that, but it's a good question.
So some of those exercises that you're doing with the action plan could result in a whole slew of recommendations.
And we anticipate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So there's nothing else you want us to do with this tonight then? This was just advisory for tonight. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is to discuss enhanced technology for council meetings.
David Bennett put a memo together that I'll highlight in a minute that outlines a number of options that the council could look at to address this if there's an interest in moving forward. All three options replace the TV screen in here. As you can see, it's dated at this point in terms of the TV technology that's currently on the market, and also replace the projector that's ceiling mounted. Those are really minimal costs. The estimate for the projector is $70, and the estimate for the TV would be just under $400. The other options vary in price. The first is a tablet option. This would provide 7 tablets with screen reader software, tablet stands, and then, as mentioned, the new projector and the new wall-mounted TV. That's a total of just over $1,000, or just under $1,100, probably more accurately depicted. The e-reader option would be just north of $1,700. This would be 7 paper tablet e-readers with screen reading software, tablet stands with audio capability. And then the third option is replacing the monitors in front of you. These would be 12-inch monitors that would likely occupy the space that the current monitors are in. There's some cabling and some other needs to make that happen. But you see a range, the cheapest option of being the replacement of the monitors. The mid-level option is to go to tablets. And then the most expensive of the 3 options would be the e-readers. If the tablet or e-reader solution was identified for cybersecurity and basic technology reasons, we'd want to keep those stored in the council chambers. They wouldn't be devices that would be checked out and able to leave. So the fourth option would be to wait and not do anything at this time, but I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Alder Finkler?
I have a question and a comment. First, the comment is, if we are going to go all electronic and not have paper packets printed anymore, I know monitors are the cheapest option, but that leaves the least amount of individual control over where we are and flipping back and forth. So I would prefer not that one. And the question I have now is, how is closed session documentation going to be handled then?
Yeah.
It's a great question, and what I would likely do is reach out to other municipalities and find out how they're doing that. I have the example of what Middleton does with closed session information, but I would want to reach out to others to find out how they're dealing with that as well.
Alder, what if you didn't have a question?
Closed session
Yeah.
is my question.
All right, Alder Lawson?
Yeah, so for the tablet or e-reader option, is 7 enough? I know that there's 7 of us, but, you know, the 2 of you, Attorney Johnson, a backup, is there a need to really have more so that we're all benefiting?
I know from my perspective that I will likely be bringing my laptop in from my office to use, but I think it's a good question of what is the right number, and maybe it's north of 7, and that's definitely a discussion we can have with the staff that are regularly at meetings and figure out what that right number is.
Alder Finkler?
I guess I have another question, sorry. What are the cybersecurity concerns? Because if the packets are public material that's out on the website and that can be gotten to by anybody out in the public, what would be the cybersecurity concerns of taking the tablets home?
There's a lot of I'm going to phrase it as carefully as I can, that until I'm comfortable with where our in-house IT is at, it's just a concern, that it's another level of risk for the council, for the city to take that device out of City Hall. That's my concern, and other communities have struggled with this issue and how to address and deal with it.
Okay. I'm wondering if, maybe acceptable use policies, if, there's anything around that we could harden up, maybe RSA tokens, do some two-factor, see what we can do there. Kind of a security nerd over here, so I'll not continue. But what I worry about is that we are now going to have everything electronic, but I have, for example, a separate phone for all my Alder business, and I would have to read my packet on my little phone, which drives me crazy when I can't get here to pick it up on Fridays, because it's not even the pro big one. And otherwise, my other option is using my personal devices, which I am a firm believer of not using personal devices for items that could be related to open records and conducting business on my own personal device. So I think I have like a couple of those concerns there with not being able to bring a tablet home, and yeah. So just for things to consider and to think about before making this full transition. And with that said, I am 100% going electronic. I just want it done right so it's not a hindrance and it's a good change.
And I agree, and I really appreciate the comments, because I think the first things you were talking about are the right things, and we're struggling with those practices in place here. And I know everyone internally is excited about our changeover to RIME, that we have a new IT provider that goes into effect May 1st, and we're excited about that. And so I think the best discussion right now is to have us bring this back at a COW, whether that's May 7th or May 21st, after we can incorporate RIME, their best practices, and make sure that we do this right, because the last thing I want to do is have a pile of 7 to 10 tablets that are unused and that we're not using because of some issue that we didn't consider or think about.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. While I, of course, would still like to stay with paper packets, I understand the technology growth needs. I just don't think we should consider getting rid of paper packets unless we are providing and making like paper tablets or something similar where we can take a device home, so that everyone has equal access to the same materials, something that can be used for note-taking, so it can be at home and then still have our notes with it when we are at meetings.
I appreciate that as well. I'll try and hide Susan's excitement from a webinar we had earlier today, but it was on an agenda management software. Those of you that don't know, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into putting these packets together, and there's a lot of products that can simplify that process and reduce the burden on staff in doing so. We're waiting from a proposal, and that's another thing that we're going to want to factor in as to what we put in place, is how that interacts. And I think this can be a significant benefit, not just for council and committee of the whole, but the rest of our committees and commissions as well. So more to come on that.
Alder Lawson?
I just wanted to second what Alder Finkler said about not going with the monitor option. I think that's the least preferable. But if we do go with one of the tablet or e-reader options, to ensure that we've accounted for the appropriate software on there in case we do need to, as Alder Reed said, take our own notes or be able to highlight just simple functions.
Alder Finkler?
I know it might be a little bit more expensive, but I would like to see a cost estimate for Chromebooks also. I think those allow a keyboard for note-taking, they allow scrolling. I believe Chromebooks have gotten pretty cheap over the years. And I think functionally, if I was given a tablet, I would probably personally want to buy a keyboard for it. So I'd be turning my tablet into a Chromebook anyway. So it's something to at least look into.
Any other questions or concerns? Matt, you have enough information? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Next item on the agenda is to convene to close session per state statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons requires a closed session, specifically to interview consultant firms to complete a feasibility study and space needs assessment for a combined public safety building, and I am looking for a motion for same.
Aldermotive will make a motion to move to closed session per 19.851E.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Motif and a second from Alder Finkler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, can we have a roll call, please, Susan?
Finkler.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Relke.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Hammer.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, we are in closed session. We will be coming back to open session.
would you be offering different design options for different locations if perhaps, it wanted to being, police and fire could be combined in one area, but you had another idea for it to be separate in two lots? Would that be included?
Yeah, we typically are seeing right now, if the funding is available and the needs are there, many communities are going to the public safety model of fire, police with a shared entity. Orb we completed, we mentioned McFarland we completed, we're just studying Monona. They're actually having city hall as well, so that's gonna be police, fire, and city admin. Fort Washington is considering police and fire together. So can we split them? Yes. Most of the time, we're finding that it's less financially efficient to do so because we duplicate some things. We duplicate training rooms, we duplicate fitness centers. There are other variety of things, emergency generators, site development. So we're finding that if the timing works and you have the resources to build both, most are building a public safety building to be more efficient. We also often study, we can't afford to do it all at once. Our fires are bigger need. We're gonna build fire now, but the master plan is police is getting added here when the resources become available.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose that was my question, as if you're giving options at different levels, depending on what financial options we have.
Yep. Yeah, the process we're gonna go through is gonna identify needs, and we're gonna work with you and mainly the stakeholders to categorize what's an immediate need, an emerging need, and a future need. And sometimes, unfortunately, that emerging or future needs becomes an entire aspect of the facility, not just bunks or garage space or some other things we need. We don't know that today, because obviously we haven't gone through that process, but yeah, we're not just gonna come in and say it's 40,000 square feet and it's $20 million and there's no other options. That's not how this works. We're gonna be working in partnership with all entities to make sure that we're meeting your goals.
If there aren't any further questions or, sorry.
Assuming that our project is typical, with
just hold on, we gotta get.
Yeah, I know, yep.
Moving this to council. Yeah, directing staff to negotiate.
Do we need a roll call?
I think so, yeah. Okay. We are back in open session, and at this time, I would take a motion on a recommendation to council of consultant firm to complete a feasibility study and space needs assessment for a combined public safety building.
Alder Finkler moves to recommend Bray Architects to the council to be the consultant firm to complete the feasibility study and space needs assessment for a combined public safety building.
Alder Motive will second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Motive to recommend Bray be the consultant firm to complete the feasibility study and space needs assessment for combined public safety building. Any discussion? Okay, can I have a roll call, please, Susan?
Sure. Rostad.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Hammer.
Aye.
Relke.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay. And then the next item is to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
A motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Motive. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Change my seat, you can't take away my